What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Restoration Rundown Podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to you, the restoration and cleaning business owner. My name is Ben Riccardi. I'm your host, and I'm the CEO of Ironclad Restoration Marketing, where I help restoration and cleaning businesses get more sales just by getting their internet marketing right. And I'm smiling a little bit today because I'm very excited about our episode. We are going to be joined by an industry legend, a man with over 50 years of experience in the restoration and cleaning industry, former president of the IICRC, ever heard of it? And the founder of the Experience Convention and Trade Shows, Mr. Larry Cooper. Now, if that name doesn't ring a bell, then perhaps maybe some of his other work might jog your memory a little bit. Have you ever heard of something called the S500, the S520, the S100, the S300? Well, I sure hope so. If you are in the restoration and cleaning industry, you should have heard of those things. And he's had a hand in all of them. So today I want you to help me welcome Mr. Larry Cooper to the Restoration Rundown podcast. Mr. Cooper, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us today.
I am fantastic, Ben. Great to be with you and your audience.
All right. All right. You hear that, everybody? He's really excited to be here too. So
what the heck, huh?
So I gave you like the old a pretty good introduction, I think, but I don't think it really scratched the surface of, your contributions to the industry and what you've done and your experience. And one of the big things that everybody that listens to this gets out of the podcast is I'm really big on providing value, which it seems like in your 50 years, that's really been at the forefront of your journey. So I wanted to see if you minded walking us through a little bit of your background in case anybody's been living in a cave for the last 50 years in this industry and they don't know who you are. Give us a little background, how you got started in the industry, and that led you up to today.
Hey, thank you for this opportunity. I started carpet cleaning when I was in high school. I didn't even have a driver's license yet. And it's an interesting business, to say the least. But back then, we used some tactics that were pretty interesting. The owner of this company used to clean college apartments, if you can imagine. And we used to clean up by the University of Colorado. Well, he used to use these shampoo machines with hot water extraction. But in the brush of the shampoo machine, he would cut out the brushes and slide in these plastic bristles. And of course, it was pretty rough on the carpet, but they needed to have some roughness because they were in terrible condition, as you can imagine. So my first day on the job, there were 3 guys there and myself. And for some reason, they were all gathered in one room. And the owner said, "Okay, it's time for you to learn how to use this machine." So I grabbed the handle of the machine and he said, "Yep, just remember, to go left, you go one way, and to go right, you go the other way." And I'm like, all right, looks pretty easy. I was watching everybody else do it. Like, he turned on the machine and it started bouncing. He had just put new bristles on and I could not control it. And I was too dumb to not turn it off. So it's bouncing and it's bouncing across the room and I went right through a wall. So they were all hilariously laughing, thinking it was the funniest thing on earth. And I was like totally petrified. But, the industry has changed so much. I started my business when I was 18 years old. When I was 16 and a half, I was running his company. But you got to get a little tough at times and get a little aggressive and get out there and do it. Nonetheless, I started my business and I remember I got married to my high school sweetheart that year also. And my first month, I did 4 jobs. And she's like, "Yeah, this is a great business you started." I was going to college. She was going to college. We were trying to pay her tuition. It was pretty slow nonetheless. But I had to learn how to go knock on doors. And that is something that's really difficult for most people to do. Kind of gut wrenching, knock on a door and say, "Hey, will you give me some business?" and introduce yourself. And no means no for that day. It doesn't mean forever. It means just that minute. So nonetheless, I grew that business. It was called Professional Cleaning Network. We had 3 offices, Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs. We had 84 employees when I sold the business 30 some odd years later. And we specialized in commercial high-rise buildings just for the textile cleaning. And so I had a crew that would go out every night and every weekend. We had about 20 guys that would go out, about 15 trucks, and we were in a solid business. We also did high-end residential. and that was awesome. And then we also had a rug cleaning plant, full more setup in Denver. And we did restoration by accident. So I remember I was on a job cleaning, and the manager of this big condo complex came in and said, "Hey, do you know how to do water damage restoration?" I'm like, "Sure, no
Yeah.
problem." Never done a job in my life, never even heard of one before. So I go down, and we're standing in water about 2 inches deep. And this is back in the mid 70s. And so I extract the water, and I'm looking at it going, what the heck do you do now? Well, we're looking at the carpet. It is a nylon carpet, but it's on jute primary, jute secondary with jute pad, hair jute pad. The smell is overwhelming, and we're like, we better look at what's under here. And we pull it up, and there's this pad under there that is, oh my God, stinking terribly. So we pull up carpet, and we pull the pad out and try to lay the carpet back down. Well, in that short period of time, it shrank about an inch all the way around. It was just like, it was really amazing. So nonetheless, that was my first water damage job. And the second one, we figured out, you know what, maybe we need to get air under there. So we bought some box fans, and then we're like, well, this isn't going to work being on top. We got to go underneath. So we were shoving chairs and chemical bottles and anything you could imagine under there. And a lot of people have heard me tell this story. We used to use a deodorizer that was amazing. It's called cherry deodorizer. Well, cherry deodorizer would mask everything, including you, man. You walked around like you smelled like a cherry all day long, It was just incredible. But it was probably the safest product I ever used, because then we got into antimicrobials and biocides and various things. And that kind of changed the nature of the game, to say the least. But I had the good fortune of being interested in education. And I got very involved in my local association, the PCUCA. And I also, my wife became president of PCUCA, and IICUC back in those days invited 4 associations to come to a meeting in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. And they were doing their convention there. So I followed along with her, and I sat in the meeting and listened, and it was very interesting and good ideas. And the people that were there from CCINW and CFI and PCRA were great people, and they're all going to join the board along with my wife. And my wife became the secretary of IICRC for about 10 years. Well, at the very end of the meeting, there was a gentleman that was running the meeting who started the organization. His name was Ed York. Well, Ed looked at me and he said, "You're kind of a useless son of a gun. What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I just came along to watch the action, man." He said, "Well, I'm going to make you vice president." I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "We need somebody to fill that slot." I'm like, "Great, be happy to do it." Well, then what happened was about 7 months later, he fired the president. He got mad at him because he charged beer on his credit card. Well, guess who's vice president? I became president of IICRC. I was 27 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a shocko. Well, it was an interesting time, to say the least. There were 400 certified technicians in IICRC at the time, and they had one certification. And so this team of Eric Rotmeister and Michael West and Trina Cooper, and I can go on with the names, but we started dreaming a little bit about what the industry could look like. Eric Rotmeister came up with this umbrella idea of all these certification categories and levels that exist today.
Yeah.
And that was his brainchild. And then Michael West came up with this idea of certification council, where we bring all the instructors and schools together and really share information and start standardizing things. And so I was president for 4 years. We went from 400 to 4,000 certified people. But more importantly, we went from having 5 associations involved to 14. And so we brought the country together, which was a big task. And then I stepped down and I started the standards committee for IICRC. And that was quite a fun opportunity to meet so many people. We also were able to take the standards committee and move it to become an ANSI accredited organization. And so I was really involved in the S500, 520, 100, and 300, and we started the 600. But, it was amazing. When I think I did that for 19 years, and when I stepped down, I was managing about 187 people that were volunteering. It was phenomenal. Talk about great friendships and,
Sure.
great meetings. It was also challenging as well, because when we started getting the scientific community involved in 520, there are a lot of difference of opinions.
Yeah.
And so that was fascinating. But the organization has grown, obviously. It's done really well. And in 1999, 4 associations came together and decided to hold a convention jointly instead of everybody doing their own. And we did that in Vegas, and it went very well. It was called Connections. And it took us a year after that to figure out that we ought to keep going. So the next show was in 2001. And my wife and I became the management company for the show. And it was quite an opportunity. And again, we brought in 14 trade associations.
Wow.
And the show really grew. It was fascinating to have that opportunity to watch the industry grow. But the key thing was we were offering an outstanding education program.
Yeah.
And our goal was always to raise the bar in the industry and bring in the science, create the science. We made up stuff all the time in standard writing. There's no question. You got to put something in writing so you can challenge it.
Right.
And so we challenged it continuously. And it was absolutely fascinating, and really, really enjoyed that opportunity. And so for 10 years, we ran the connections conferences and conventions. And then in 2011, we actually started the experience. And so my whole family's been involved in producing the experience, and it has grown tremendously. And we're really known for that word experience, which has to do with hands-on learning.
Yeah.
It's so critical, obviously, and that's how I learned. So I assumed everybody else did too. But nonetheless, it's been a great journey. And you may or may not know, last October, we actually sold our company to B&P Media, R&R Magazine, and myself and Jennifer and Jillian have stayed on to help run the organization with them, teach them as much as we know. And, I looked at it after the sale and I was like, I've been doing this for 50 years, man. That's a long time. I'm going to go find some nice beaches. So I've been doing that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I can help you find those. Like I said, we're down in South Florida, and I know you're very familiar. We're going to be seeing each other in May.
I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, that's incredible, man. And I find a lot of similarities in our journeys. You just happen upon the industry and what we do. But one of the things that sticks out to me the most is the value in the value, right? The value in the education, the value in the experience, which is, what your whole entire event structure is set up around. Now, I preach this a lot because I think it's important. One of the things, we're a digital marketing agency first and foremost, but one of the things that we tell people all the time is, and you need to get involved with the associations. If you're a restorer or a cleaning company, a lot of these guys or ladies out there are looking at everybody else's competition versus somebody they can learn from. So can you speak on, the importance of joining, associations like the regional associations or the IICRC, RIA, anything like that for people that may not be or may be on the fence about it?
Yeah, I will tell you that I learned more about the business from my quote unquote competitors who became my best friends. And I also found that by my giving back to newer people coming into the industry, it paid off tenfold. There's no question about it. And, as far as associations, or other conventions. None of them are my competitor or should be our competitor. And matter of fact, we just signed a memorandum of agreement with RIA to work together. We're not their competitor.
Right.
And our goals are similar to theirs. We want to raise the bar on education as
Yes.
high as we possibly can. So I encourage you to reach out to quote unquote your competitor because there's going to be times where they have too much work.
Yep.
There's going to be times you have too much work and you have someone you can work with and turn to. Here in Colorado, I made sure that all my competitors were my best friends.
Yeah.
Because we work together, same clients, same industry, same ideas, and we learned from each other. And we would put on workshops and teach them what trade secrets we had, right? And then they would share also. And we just learn together. And it really makes a huge impact. And it also raises the bar of professionalism in the industry. And that's
Yeah.
the critical piece. And I really hear that from the public now.
Yeah.
Is how professional this industry has become.
Yeah, because it wasn't always looked at that way. Just learning everything I've learned, and drinking. It's like drinking through a fire hydrant or a fire hose. In the short 7 or 8 years we've been marketing in this industry, that wasn't always the case, and that's important to us. Is why we deal with similar things. Marketing agencies out there have a very, it's hit or miss, right? So a lot of people's experiences are terrible, which puts a lot of the other marketing agencies in a bind because, you're constantly having to dig yourself out of a hole that you did not create. So that's why education is at the forefront of everything we do here. We provide as much value as possible, whether it's writing books or articles or doing this podcast and bringing people on to teach. I would rather have somebody take away some sort of tangible value than be a client at the end of the day, because one day, they may need our services or somebody else that's doing it right. And at least they'll be empowered with the information to be able to understand whether or not they're getting ripped off or even affirm that they're doing the right thing. So I really like that about everything you have going on. And it's funny just how many different similarities that I keep finding with everybody that comes on as a guest, and whether it's background experience or at least what they do. So it seems like we're cultivating a group of like-minded individuals with the podcast, which is great. Now, problems in the industry. We talked a little bit about, we talked about your background, which is, I think we could do a whole 2-hour episode just talking to you and listening to stories of what you've dealt with. But, the reality existed that there was some issues with the way the public looked at the industry or even insurance carriers, everybody. But let's fast forward to 2023. What are a couple problems that you still see with restorers or cleaning companies out there that they keep making these same mistakes that, maybe we can give our audience some actionable items to take away from this on how to kind of mitigate those?
That's a great question. And it's changing over time.
Yeah.
We went through the whole bait and switch, era where people would say $499 for all 3 rooms or whatever.
Yeah.
They came out with $500.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, they did a terrible job at the same time. Today the market has changed quite a bit. And I think probably the biggest challenge I see is labor.
Yes.
Finding good people and giving them a career opportunity is got to be something that is on everyone's mind because, they all have their expenses, they have families, they've got to support. They can't live on low income. And so that's a critical piece, is to find some formulas that work so that you have people that not are just committed today, but are committed long term. The one thing I learned about being in the carpet cleaning business is that it's no different than any other business I would start. Yeah. It's exactly the same. Business is business. And it's a matter of how you run that opportunity and how you treat people, how you actually have what your experience is, not just to the big C, which is customers, but to the little c, which is your employees. And that's so critical. And so we tried to set up in our own company a real family based opportunity. We wanted them to bring their families in to different events with us. We wanted them to get as much education as they could. We'd support their class opportunities. We would bring great speakers to our own company, great consultants to our company, to let them grow also. I think that is number one right now. Is everybody's talking about how hard it is to get good people. Well,
Yeah.
I think there's good people out there, but we need a good opportunity for them. The second thing may be related to the restoration industry. It hasn't gotten any easier, obviously, and uh, it's always been a little bit of a challenge working in the insurance industry, obviously. And so there's a lot of contracts that are out there for various groups to do work. Um, Consumers don't necessarily know what those look like,
Yeah.
and they're not obligated to use those companies. And so don't listen to me, but I'll tell you what I did. Okay. I was never on any programs. I just didn't want someone to tell me what the standard of care for my business would be in doing the job the right way. I was going to follow the standard of care for the industry,
Yeah.
protect my liability, not the insurance company's liability, right? And so I marketed to my cleaning customers, commercial and residential. We're available 24 hours a day. If you ever have an emergency, call us.
Yep.
And they did.
Yep.
And so we were doing 500 to 700 water damage jobs a year at our peak. And, the insurance companies that show up 3 days later and say, oh, you're off the job. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, we have our own company. I said, oh, thank you so much. I had already done the extraction. Everything was dry. I've got all my drying equipment rental. I've used an antimicrobial, blah, blah, blah. And now somebody has to put the job back together, which was not profitable. And so I'm like, can I hug you?
Yeah.
Right? Thanks for doing me a favor. Well, after about a year of that, they stopped doing that because they had no complaints about our company, no files sitting on their desk from our company that were challenging. We took care of our customers in the best way we knew, and we made sure that we provided a service that was excellent, and they always knew that we cared. And so that's how we ran our restoration business. It was quite profitable, and it was also quite challenging. Of course, the phone never rings at 2:00 in the afternoon. It's always at 10:00 at night. So,
Yeah.
That's the business. But
Yeah.
I think dealing with insurance companies is always going to be a challenge. And I understand that from their perspective. They've got to make a profit also. And with all the disasters that are coming on right now,
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be the third thing that I would acknowledge is that there are so many disasters happening around the country that you need to be ready for that. And I think most companies are not engaging the way they could to provide services the way they could. And then finally, the last one will go back to cleaning. Everything's changed about cleaning. I mean, we used to clean carpet that was nylon that was so easy to take care of. And now we've got all these polyesters that, they've done some great formulas and they clean and all those kind of things, but it's different technology and we need to be well aware of that. But what's happened in the meantime is luxury vinyl tile and plank have taken over the world. I mean, carpet is now down to 30% of the manufacturing, and these luxury vinyl plank and tiles are like 55% of what's being manufactured out there. It is unbelievable. So all of a sudden, companies are sitting there saying, well, we're carpet cleaners. No, you're not. You're floor care cleaners. And to clean these luxury vinyl floors is so amazingly easy. It just blows me away that more companies haven't started shifting over. They need to be cleaned. I swore I would never have a hard surface in my house. All right. Well, I put in some hard surface floors in my house, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now, 2 weeks later, I bought 14 area rugs and covered it up, but
Sure.
that's besides the point. But Here's one thing that I've really observed. In my kitchen, if we spill something, even though we're cleaning it 2 or 3 times a week, I get down with a paper towel, it comes up black. We are not cleaning it very well with these little mops that we have.
Right.
And they need to be professionally cleaned at least yearly, if not more often, because there'll be a buildup as well. And so that's a critical thing to learn about. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret that we have going on. Next year in the spring, our show is going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And here's why. We have a great relationship with the largest manufacturer of floor covering in the world. That's Shaw Industries.
Yep.
And Shaw Industries has invited us to bring 250 people to their manufacturing plants so you could actually see how these products are manufactured, whether it's luxury vinyl tile, plank, wood, carpet. We're going to be touring all of these various plants. And it's a huge opportunity for the industry to really increase their own knowledge of what's happening on the floor.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, a couple of things that you touched on is the preparedness, right? Whether it's disasters or the changes in the industry. And I really like that because there's parallels to what we do. A lot of times, in this industry, it's really quick moving, like I mentioned before we jumped on, and, we'll have guys, especially we're in South Florida. So listen, hurricanes is just like the sun coming up. It happens. We're ready. Throw some shutters up. We're good to go. Sometimes they're a little bit more devastating, like last year. And what we find is a lot of people aren't ready to not only market that, but handle that type of work. And, what we try to tell everybody, whether it's, cleaning the right kind of flooring and getting ahead of it, you have to get ahead of this stuff. And you need to be ahead of it by almost a year. That means gaining some sort of footprint in the world, in your service area of, hey, we're here to do this service for you when you're ready. And that takes educating your teams. That takes, from a branding perspective, doing the right type of marketing. There's no such thing as a switch we can turn on and get leads. If we did, I would be in a much better position financially, I think. And so would most of my clients. So, you need to get ahead of this stuff. You need to give yourself at least 6 months. So if you're listening to this, heed Larry's advice. You need to understand what you're up against, from a day-to-day operational and how to actually remediate or restore that type of damage or clean that type of flooring. But from a branding perspective in your service area, you need to give yourself the time to let this stuff bear fruit. We talk all the time about SEO, right? SEO is like a garden. You need to plant a garden. Well, if your garden that you wanted to plant was doing hurricane damage, and you thought you could take those hurricane damage seeds and throw them in the dirt, walk away, wait for a hurricane to come, and you're going to walk back there, you're probably going to be disappointed in the results. But if you have a system in place to nurture that foothold and build that digital footprint, and then take it a step further by joining associations and meeting your peers and going to conventions, you're going to be ready to go. And that's really what separates the people that are successful in any industry, I guess you can say, but specifically cleaning and restoration, from the people that aren't successful. And there's a lot more unsuccessful companies than there are successful companies. Speaking with different people out there that sell these businesses for a living, I was surprised to hear the percentage of companies that just are not sellable because of just those things. They don't have the systems in place and they're not ready for what they think they're ready for.
And that's the important word right there, systems. Put a system in your company. And, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the disasters are going to come. There's no question. In my own company, I decided that I wanted to have a war room. So when we had a major disaster, we would all go into that room to answer phones and track every job, every piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And my staff was like, man, you're a little crazy, And I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, hell yeah, I am.
About 4 months later, we had a big ice storm.
Okay.
And there were broken pipes everywhere. Well, we took 167 jobs in 2 days.
Wow.
And man, I tell you what, I've never smiled harder in my life. I got to tell you, but we worked 3 days straight, 24 hours a day to respond to get to those jobs. And then we had to explain to them, you're on our list. We're methodically, as you called in, we'll be servicing your account. Thank goodness we had access to enough equipment to be able to handle all of that. And that's another reason you want to know all your peers around.
That's right. I was just
And
going to say
so,
that. Yep.
yeah, exactly. I did something after that, which is I started a rental company. So I had a separate company operating, and I'd rent myself my own equipment, but also I would rent to any of my competitors.
Sure.
So they could come in and rent, I'd have 500 pieces of equipment or whatever it was. They'd come in and rent it. And I'll tell you what a great business that was. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So get to know your peers. You need to know, because you never know when you could get hit with something to where you have enough work to where you can hand it off to other people that you trust. And that's another reason getting to know your competition is good, because you know who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong, which leads you to the associations and being able to connect with people that are in your industry. Not only guys that have been there and done that, like you, Larry, but people that are just starting out, and you could spread that wealth. That's probably one of the greatest joys I have, is being able to help other people deal with problems, whatever that may be, which has led me to having this, our digital marketing agency.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So helping people. You've got a little event coming up. We talked about in the beginning, right? We're going to be down here in sunny South Florida, May 8th through the 10th, which is your experience convention and trade show. There's a really good looking guy who's really smart who's going to be speaking at that event, I think, on the first day, talking about some digital marketing stuff. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but Larry, could you talk to the listeners a little bit more about the experience program, what its intentions? I know you talked about the background and getting all the like-minded individuals. Let's talk about the experience event we have going on in Fort Lauderdale that's coming up that we're going to see each other at very soon.
Thank you for that opportunity. First of all, I want to tell everybody that we have worked really hard to keep the price of education down at our show. Mm-hmm. While some others are charging $700 or $1,200, I mean, we're in the $250 to $300 range whenever possible, depending on what the cost is, obviously, of the venue we're at.
Sure.
We don't make money on having people come register. We try to break even. Where we make money as a show is obviously from having booth spaces and sponsorships. And the sponsorships are so critically important. And you can thank Ben for stepping up and being a part of that, because it makes the show possible. We couldn't do what we do without the support we get. So our show actually starts on the 7th, the day before.
Sunday.
There's 3 classes running. And then we also do a cocktail reception at 4:00 that day at registration. And so that'll be at the Fort Lauderdale Convention Center. And then our show starts on the 8th. Now, the hotel also is something you should hear about. The Hilton Marina. Mm-hmm. I just stayed there last week. I paid $299 a night. I got a rate during COVID for you guys for $169 a night. Unheard of. And we're selling them quick. So if you're coming to the show and you're going to stay in a hotel, go online to the Experience the Events and book under venue as soon as you can to get that rate. You don't want to miss out on that, because I've been looking around and everything is $299 and way up.
I booked mine. I listen, I live 30 miles away from there, and I booked my room just because it's such a nice hotel. I even tried to submit for an upgrade to a suite so I can do my presentation 75 times before I actually have to present on Monday on my own. I got to try to keep the cussing to a minimum and things like that. But I've been working on my 39 years.
There's
on
a $20 fine for every cuss word. Just so you know.
I've been saving my cash to put in this swear jar when I get there. Hopefully they're all positive swears and not negative ones. Which I'm sure they're going to be.
We do 4 tracks of education, and that starts on the 8th. It's on the 9th and 10th. So cleaning, restoration and remediation, marketing and management. And then we have a general subject, but we also, on the last day, will have a track in the language of Spanish, just Spanish speaking. Right. And so we've been trying to expand that program. And as more and more Spanish speaking folks attend, we will continue to expand that program also. It's very vital. So those 4 tracks run from 8:30 to 2:30 on Monday and Tuesday, and on Wednesday from 8:30 to 12. The one thing our show does that's different from most shows, when you're in an education session, the trade show is not open. We don't want to compete with education. It is so important to us that we get you involved and engaged. And that's really something we've always done. Once the education is done at 2:30, the trade show opens and goes till 6:30 on Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, it goes from 12 to 3. Now, the trade show hall is amazing. You have manufacturers, you have distributors, you have educators, you have people that are doing some great things in the industry. And you're going to want to come see them. If you don't want to go to the education and just go to the trade show hall, it's $10. Definitely come check that out. But I think you'll find that if you go to the classes and you show up in the trade show hall, you'll learn so much more.
Yeah.
We have live demonstrations going on in the trade show hall. So we have a flood pavilion, we have a cleaning pavilion, we have Shaw Learning Lab in there. So they're teaching about all their product technology. Normie is in there teaching about mold remediation. There's all kinds of hands-on going on throughout the room, and you'll want to engage in those things also. Now, we will have some truck mounts outside, so you can go see those truck mounted units and try them out. That's always fun. But the show is designed to be fun also. And so every day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we have cocktail receptions. Now, on Monday night, the cocktail reception leaves the convention center and goes back over to the Hilton Marina. And they have just built this amazing place up on the third floor overlooking the water with these huge yachts all around, man. It is super.
Yeah.
So our party will be in there that night. It'll be for about an hour and a half. And then there are so many great restaurants and clubs around and entertainment. There is a water taxi right out the back door. Yep. You can go to 6 different locations with restaurants, beaches, whatever you want to do if you just want to walk around. You can walk from the hotel over the bridge and you're right in that restaurant district. We just love the location. We love Florida because it's so warm and I'm so damn cold in Colorado right now.
Yeah, we're a little warm. I was picking at you a little bit. We keep our AC, I think, where you guys have your heater on right now. So we're I can vouch for it. It's the downtown or the 17th Street area where in Fort Lauderdale, where this hotel is one of the most beautiful places down here in South Florida. There's just endless amounts of things to do in that area. The water taxi is cool, takes you up through where most of the celebrities live through Los Olas and through the Fort Lauderdale River system. And now I'm looking forward to the event. So how do our listeners learn more about the event? Maybe sign up, maybe come and see me talk on Monday morning a little bit. How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, they definitely ought to come see you talk. And I've learned a lot about you today. It's been very exciting to hear the work you're doing. So if you go to experiencetheevents.com, you'll come right to our website. The whole agenda is there. The floor plan is there with every exhibitor, and we're still selling lots of booths. We have about 50 booths still left at the show. And then you can register right there. Registration is open, and book your hotel right online. So, people get scammed every day, especially our exhibitors, companies trying to scam them to go stay at some other hotel at some cheap rate. None of it's true. So use our online registration and book directly with the show, and you'll be gold. So that would really work out.
I just threw up for anybody watching this on YouTube or on LinkedIn Live, I just threw the URL for the experiencetheevents.com down there at the bottom. So it's ticking across pretty slow. So if you can type quickly, you can get it. And also, Larry, you mentioned before that some of our tens of listeners that we have here at the Restoration Rundown, you guys have a little cool promo code that we may be able to send out to them for show attendance.
Yes, I do, and I don't know it. That's terrible. So here's what I will do is, Ben, I will grab that from Jillian and Jennifer, and I will email that over to you. Maybe you can post it for all of your folks.
We will.
So that you can. But we want to give them $30 off to come to the show on your behalf as a gold sponsor. And we really look forward to meeting a lot of people, new people at the show. The show is fun. It's also intense, a lot of education.
Yeah.
But here's something that I learned over the years, and that is don't try to bring back 20 ideas and implement them.
No.
Come in and take 3 ideas back and implement 3 ideas. Your company will skyrocket if you come to several shows. The one thing that I love to get feedback on is people call me all the time and say, "You have no idea what impact your show has had on our business. I've been coming for 5 years, and my company has tripled in size with what I've learned at the experience. And I took your advice and I implement 3 or 4 things each time I come." And it really makes a big difference, obviously, to companies. Now, also, we are going to do a second show in September, and that is September 6th through 8th in Las Vegas at Caesars Forum Conference Center. So look for that also. And I got to tell you guys, man, we have a great show, but the best part of it is seeing all of you there and meeting guys like Benjamin that give so much back to the industry. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, Larry, no, thank you for taking time out of your day with all that you have going on to walk some of our listeners through your background. I'd love to have you on a little bit more and just listen to stories about, what you've dealt with, because I really feel that your experiences and experience in general is one of the biggest and best teachers for everybody out there to maybe help them avoid some missteps that I'm sure that you experience, like I do here with this podcast and talking about my agency and some of the digital marketing methods that we use here. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on. We're going to have you on more as it can fit in your schedule, I hope. So everybody, make sure you go to experiencetheevents.com. Connect with Larry Cooper on LinkedIn, Wealth and Knowledge. I've been following him for quite some time. Subscribe to the magazines, join the associations, follow us, and keep a lookout. We will post up the promo for the experience event coming in for the coupon that Larry mentioned. Larry, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in to the Restoration Rundown. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode and all the other episodes out there. And hopefully you got some value out of this episode. Thanks, Larry. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you very much. It was great.